Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the PSGL E-Series. We're here for round number 5 of the season here in Miami. Welcome back, one and all. My name is Joshua Davis. And back alongside me once again this week is Dan Field. Dan, how are we doing?
Doing well as always. Excited to be back for this evening. Can't wait to get started. Of course, Miami is new. It's a very new circuit on the Formula One calendar, I believe, new to the F1 at 22 games. So certainly it is going to be a very exciting race, this one.
It absolutely is. We'll get you ready and rolling with the constructors' standings from last time out at China. It was Williams Esports' Alvaro Carreton who took the race win, of course, his third win out of 4 with race clutch in P2. P2, 136 plays to 205. Parnell Racing sit P3 with 130, really starting to close up on race clutch, obviously, with Patrick Sipos' P2. It was very hard to beat. Veloce Elite sits P4 tonight with RHG in 5th with 90 points. Veloce on 114. Viscero Esports VSR on 88 with Haas F1 on 79. TTF10 sits 8th with 68 with SRT on 57 and FVR sit bottom of the team, bought 10 points away from SRT. And Dan, going into this one, probably Williams, the standout favourites once again. They have Shanaka Clay and Will Lewis this time to their disposal. Varric Caraton taking this week out, but Will, he had a struggle to Zandvoort, if you do remember back then. But hopefully he can try and recover his form coming into this one.
Yeah, of course, for Williams so far this season, Alvaro's been their main man. I mean, Janaka's been able to get onto the podium multiple times so far this season, but it's been Alvaro Carreton taking those wins with him out this evening. Williams might not be able to hold on to that streak that they have at the moment, and this is by no means a slow grid whatsoever. We've got plenty of talent headed into this one, so definitely I think Williams are going to have a tough one today.
Absolutely. We're about to get ready to go into qualifying in a couple of moments time. Jano Watmir is not racing tonight. He does not race in the PSGL E Series. He is a Mercedes F1 Esports driver. He is not partaking in this one. We have a ton of F1 Esports drivers at your disposal and future F1 stars as well, with the likes of Will Lewis, Jack Leverty, Matthew Alder. Otis Lawrence is racing tonight, of course. Newest race winner in the PSGL F1 Series with his win at the French Grand Prix. And we should be ready to rock and roll in a couple of moments' time to meet the new track, of course. It is the new track, the Miami Grand Prix. It is a fairly new one on the F1 Series. Obviously came back in 2022 last year as Max Verstappen winning that one by quite a comfy margin in the end. But hopefully we get a little bit better racing and a little bit more closer racing than we did in real life. And this should be a cracker. And we're about to get ready to go for qualifying right now, Dan.
Yeah, of course, the 18-minute Q1 session we're about to be met with at the moment, where of course the top 15 are decided, and then the top 10 from the Q2 session are fighting it out for pole position. So we are looking at the bottom 5. Who is going to be going out in this session? Typically, it's going to be the community teams that we see eliminated early on, but I think around a circuit like this, very unpredictable, I would say. So we could see some big names going out early.
We absolutely could indeed. And it's similar to the first round of the season. Not many drivers coming out straight away for their laps. A few just sort of tweaks to see where people will be going out. We should be met with the intermediates as we usually are. These league racing, and already Luke Smith, you can see there, sweating on the intermediate compound tires just to see if everything is working nice and fair on everyone's rigs. We'll flick on over to the British man now, the Alpine F1 Esports driver. Of course, did very well in his opening season in F1 22, the Pro Series, of course, last year. And he's out for the first time. That will run you down the order end is Luke Smith and Daniel Kelton racing for race clutch tonight. Will Lewis and Shanaka Clay is out for Williams, with Leroy Brown and Connor Muir at Aston Martin's SRT, with Jack West and This Van Pookie at Parnell, Jack Laverty and Dylan Warren Spark Flames in the TF10 garage, with Otis Lawrence coming back alongside Matthew Alder at the Veloce camp, with Cameron Dowds and Joost Noordijk at R8G, Alexander Kraft and Duncan Hoffland race at the VSR team, and then Thomas Ronhart and Matthias Van Erven make up the Haas F1 Esports team, and Kuba Trzekiak and Manesha Mena make up the FVR squad, as we start to see a few more drivers coming out to start their laps.
Yeah, Conor Muir and Daniel Shelton coming out onto the circuit. on their intermediate tyres. Once again, it's looking a little bit overcast in the sky up ahead, but I'd imagine if rain was due very soon, then all the runners will be exiting the pit lane as soon as they can on the soft, so they're not wasting any time. So I don't believe we're actually going to see any rain in this Q1 session. Could be Q2 and Q3, but Luke Smith on his outlap now through the third sector now. That is a very, oh, even the second sector there. That series of corners, I believe it's down at turns 13 and 14. Very tough to get right. Of course, you can definitely invalidate over the curves on the inside through that chicane. So a lot of these drivers, they have to be very careful on their runs, and if they don't get in the validation, they are expected to abandon their lap. As now through the final corners, he's pulled off to the right hand side, kept within the pit line, and Luke Smith coming back into the garage. Not going to be setting a lap on this set of the intermediates. Just checked everything was in working order, and he's happy with how everything is. He'll be into the pits now.
Absolutely. So wondering if Conor Muir will do the same as he runs the final couple of corners down towards the Hard Rock Stadium. He's going to decide to take a lap. Very, very sketchy. And he's actually going to decide to come back in the pits. That was Luke Smith's teammate of Daniel Kilton. Decides to do the same on the intermediate compound tyre. So no runs just yet for everyone. Everyone just testing everything on the intermediate compound of tyres. And we still are yet to see any representative times being set, or any times at all for that matter. So let's have a look. Let's have a talk about the Chinese Grand Prix, Dan. I'm not sure if you were watching or not. Obviously, we were joined by Joshua Birch last week, but it was Alvaro Carreton winning once again. Thomas Ronha was 6th out of that one. Patrick Sipos was P2, and Shanaka Clay was P3. It's been dominance all the way through for Williams, but do you see anyone really sticking a challenge to them tonight?
Well, I'm not too sure as it stands at the moment. I do think that Haas have certainly been climbing their way up the leaderboard after their early disqualification earlier on in the season. And of course, with no Alvaro Carreton for Williams tonight, definitely think there are a few drivers with a decent shout of taking the top spot this evening. Got to be looking at the pro teams. Thomas Ronha, Van Erven racing for Haas, 2 RHG boys of Joost Noordijk, Cameron Dowds, and Daniel Shelson, Luke Smith as well, and the Aloche Elites drivers, Matthew Alden, Otis Lawrence. I think those are the main guys you need to be watching out for. Shanaka Clay and Will Lewis, they're going to have a big target on their back this evening. They know that Williams are the main threat in this championship, and so taking as many points away from them as possible is really the key to success in this season. We're coming up to the halfway point at the moment, and Williams, they are almost 100 points clear of the nearest team of Race Clutch, so they really do need to pull the finger out because Williams are running away with it.
They absolutely need to do indeed. 69 points separate the gap between Williams Esports and Race Clutch tonight, and they're really going to have to hope for an absolute stormer of a Grand Prix if they want to try and get any further to that target. A 1-2 is probably what they are looking for tonight as we run on boards with Dylan Warren as he runs the final couple of corners. TF10 with a qualifying ban tonight for their late submission, so I believe it will be Jack Laverty taking that qualifying ban, or it might be Dylan Warren as he comes back in to the pits once again. And coming back into the pits, Conor Muir took another venture out on the intermediate compound of tyres, and as Conor Muir heading towards the final couple of corners then of Sector 2 as he heads into Sector 3. Very, very tricky is the Miami Grand Prix circuit. You really have to abuse those curves and those track limits as much as you can if you want to extract the absolute most out of your cars. He heads towards the final couple of corners. One of the easiest sectors to get right. Obviously, the long back straight. Then you have the final couple of corners. You have to be very, very careful on the throttle, however, on the exit. Otherwise, you will be ending up in a spin. We'll see if Conor Muir will take this lap around the Miami Grand Prix. He breaks towards the final couple of corners, heading into third gear round the exit of the final couple of corners, and he will take this lap around the Miami Grand Prix. Danfield, let's have a look at the Miami Grand Prix with you.
So here he is now, headed down in towards turn 1. Of course, take this lap with a pinch of salt. He heads into the first corner, fairly straightforward, 90-degree right hand. Get on the power as early as possible. Switch it over to the left, and you're going to reach the series of S's where traction is going to be oh so important through here. And of course, on the intermediates for Conor Muir, that's going to be very hard. Swing it over from the right over to the left, and then flick of the wrist. Dylan Warren taking the qualifying ban for TF10, as he previously mentioned. He retires in the pits as Conor Muir is really drifting this car around the circuit. He's struggling on these intermediate tyres. I'm not too sure why he come out for a second tour of the Miami circuit, given that he'd already come out on the intermediate tyres, and there's no real point in setting a lap at this point. We're coming up towards the 10-minute mark, where that is typically when all the drivers decide to exit the pit lane. Josh, it is very interesting that we didn't see more runners coming out on the intermediate set of tyre, and that could hint possibly they are saving the green wall set later on in qualifying. Potential rain as Conor Muir hits the inside at turn number 14, that is. And unfortunately, he has spun the car, lost an end plate on his wing, and if this lap was going to do anything for him, that is completely gone out the window now.
Yeah, absolutely. A few comments about the intermediate compound tyres. They're not blinds, however, they are just taking an installation out. It won't be a sort of time representative to them, just to see how everything is on their rigs, how everything they are on their setups, if they are happy with everything floating about. So it's not a time to be representative about. It is just an installation up to see where everything is going. And Conor Muir heading up towards the line now on a very scruffy lap of 39.903, but we'll probably be seeing about 20 or so seconds more quicker than that throughout the course of this session. As we see, one of the Ferrari drivers is that Manesha Mena. Yes, it is on a lap at the moment, deciding to go for the soft compound side. So we have our first couple of laps starting to come out a little bit more now, Dan.
Yeah, FVR getting ahead of the game at the minute. They want to be as clear and as clearer as possible, given how far they are in the championship at the moment, sitting in P10. Realistically, they have put all of their hopes into qualifying here to get out of that Q1 session. It's going to be very difficult for them to climb up the order at all, as he hopes, going to hope, I think, Modesto Mena, that Conor Muir comes back into the pit lane at the end of this lap and doesn't impede on his run. But once the Ferrari exit the pit lane, the floodgates open, and now everyone else peeling out onto the circuit. Cameron Dowds is the man behind Modesto on a circuit. And we got one of the Alpine drivers, that would be Luke Smith. I believe he's got his teammate Daniel Shelson just behind him on circuit. Then one of the Veloce drivers. Then got the other Ferrari of Cuba. That's going to be a difficult name for me to say. I'm going to say Treziuk. Hopefully I've got that one right. If anyone in the live chat would like to correct me, that'd be perfect. As Conor Muir, he gets out of the way of Modesto Mena, peeling off to the left-hand side, and the Ferrari is going to come to the end of his outlap. We'll see what he can do around the Miami circuit.
Absolutely, we're right on board with the Spaniard from FVR. He runs the final couple of corners of Miami Grand Prix, heading up towards the line. A little bit of a wobble out of the final corner, gets away with it as he heads up towards the DRS line and the finish line as you head into turn one, then braking hard just about after the 100-meter board, flicking it towards the right hand side, fourth gear, heading on towards the curve, missing that first one, a little bit of a touch on the left and a little bit more touch on the right hand side. Let the car drift out to the left hand side, then cut right back to the barriers, and then a flick towards the light will come right about now, down one gear into sixth gear, flicking it back towards the right hand side, staying in that sixth gear, and then riding the curves like a skateboard all the way through, and take a nice wide line out of the exit, which you can swoop back into the inside and ride that curb on the exit. Now heading into the DRS zone at 29.992 in sector 1, the final DRS zone, well, the penultimate DRS zone of this circuit. A lot of overtaking opportunities can be done here as he heads into the next braking zone under the Emirates board, braking it just behind the 100-meter board, flicking it towards the left-hand side, missing that curb on the exit to try and cut it back towards that right-hand side, keeping it tight towards the curves, full throttle as much as you can up to fifth, then flick it back towards the left, cutting that left and hitting that right once again, flicking it back to the final couple of corners, missing that curb. It will cause you a spin, a little bit of a wobble as he took it a little bit too much. 1.9 in sector 2, a very strong sector 2 to be precise for Modesto Mena as he heads up towards the final couple of corners under the Armco barriers, heading up towards the final couple of corners then and braking hard at the 100-meter board for third gear, flicking it back to the left hand side, the car drift out to the final corner, fourth gear action, heading up towards the line now, flick towards the left, flick towards the right, staying it tight towards the line, across the line to 27.198, and that is your lap around Miami.
See how it holds up for the rest of the drivers. Coming down at the moment, about a tenth quicker than Modesto Mena. He's coming up towards the line. He goes into P1, a good few tenths clear of the FBR representative. Then we got the two Alpine runners, the race clutch drivers this evening. Luke Smith coming to the line, only a few hundred slower than Cameron. And then we've got Daniel Shelson up to the line next for race clutch. Of course, second in the championship at the moment. They're second and third in Q1 for the time being, as Matthew Alder comes to the line, goes about a tenth slower than Shelson so far, as the FBR drivers, they make up fifth and sixth at the moment. Shanaka Clay for Williams takes the top of the order, and then Will Lewis blows his time out of the water, a 1 minute 26.372 from him. Otis Lawrence able to split the two Williams drivers there. Joost Noordijk's just come across the line, but I believe he was invalid on his run. Duncan Hoffman for VSR comes into P3. Got one of the the Tier 10 representatives of Jack Laverty in towards P8. Then we've got one of the Aston Martins up next, and then Jack West going towards the line. He said he was going to be around about last position so far. He's very inconsistent around this track, in his own words. However, he goes to the top of Q1 with 5.5 minutes to go. The two Haas boys coming up towards the line now. Van Over goes into P7. Thomas Ronhart up to the sharp end of the order, 1 minute 26.306. And as quick as they started, all the laps coming towards an end.
Absolutely so. Thomas Ronhart once again on top fine form in qualifying by about 400ths of a second to Jack West in P2, 600ths to Will Lewis in P3. What a lap those three have set off the bankers all the way through. So riding on board with Joost Noordijk at the moment. Not sure if he's on a push lap or not. We'll have a look to see if he decides to go for one more. Doesn't look like he is as he rounds the final couple of corners as he hits a 1 minute 4.729. So a little bit slower than we have seen from the rest of the drivers tonight. So he'll be coming back into the pit lane, but it is Thomas Ronhart setting the pace already to Jack West in P2, Will Lewis in P3, Otis Lawrence, one of the fan favourites as well, in P4, with Duncan Hoffman making his debut tonight, the Aston Martin F1 Esports development driver, sitting 5th for VSR. Have a great lap from him, Alexander Kraft, his teammate, currently sitting in P20, not yet set a lap so far, with Schumacher Clay in P6, Van Erven sits P7, Cameron Dowles in 8th, Luke Smith sits 9th, and Kjelchen sits in the top 10, currently in the danger zone. Alexander Kraft, Dylan Warren, who has a qualifying ban, so he will be out already, Joost Noordijk, Istvan Pukki, and Conor Muir.
Yep, so realistically, the drivers at risk at this moment in time are the two FVR drivers and the two SRT runners. Of course, Joost Noordijk, Istvan Pukki, and Alexander Kraft, they've been very impressive, especially in qualifying so far this season. You expect them to be up the order come the end of the session. Jack West decides to retire in the pit lane. I'd do the same if I were him. I mean, he's well up the front of the order. I'd say the top three all definitely safe. I think Otis Lawrence, he'd be betting that he is safe on his lap at the moment as well. Say around about where Cameron Dowles is, Luke Smith, Daniel Shelson. I think they'll have to come out once again for another lap. Bearing in mind as well, Conor Muir hasn't set a soft time at the moment. He's on the intermediates so far this evening, 1 minute 39.903. We have to expect the SRT driver to have a little bit more pace in that Aston Martin than that. But with just over 3 minutes left to go to Ghost Town out on circuit, all the drivers headed in towards the pit lane. Otis Lawrence retiring for Veloce soon.
Absolutely so. Otis Lawrence and Jack West, the only drivers who have set a lap to retire from the session. And probably right in doing so. A 26.5 for Otis Lawrence, very low 26.5 will surely get him through. And Jack West on a 26.3 mid is a very decent lap as well. You're probably looking to set you safe, probably about a mid 26 is what you're going to be looking at. Anything probably above Schumacher Clay or Matthias Van Erven, you're probably going to have to go again. Matthias Van Erven and is probably on the cusp of that on a 26.690. I'm sure he'll be going out anyway as Thomas Ronhart retires from the session as well. A 26, low 26.3 will definitely be enough for him to set the bankers going. As the SRT drivers, that's Leroy Brown, or is that Conor Muir? It is Leroy Brown who will set the pace first as he heads through Sector 2 once again as he flies under the barriers and hoping to try and see SRT into another Q3. He's on a good run before is Leroy Brown in qualifying, so hopefully he can keep that train going.
Yeah, and hopefully for SRT's sake, himself and Conor Muir can get out of that bottom 5. Of course, it's going to be a little bit easier for them with Dylan Warren already retiring from the session. They're going to hope likes of Istvan Pukki, Joost Noordijk and Alexander Kraft as well. They don't have good runs at all. We'll see how they do. I think we can see Leroy Brown out of Q1 and getting himself in towards Q2. We'll have to wait and see as he heads now to the DRS zone and opening that up as he comes across the line to begin his lap of Miami's second attempt around here, hitting his braking zone perfectly in towards turn 1. Misses apex ever so slightly on the inside, but already getting in towards the twisty first sector where using all the circuit is absolutely vital through here. Very quick in towards this next left, down in towards 6th gear, immediately back on the power, but then you have to feather the throttle through this next part, very wide through this next left-hander, then swooping back into the inside, kissing the apex on the inside and then coming on towards this onto this straight where you don't get DRS to around about the halfway point underneath the F122 gantry and barreling down in towards this next left-hander where we're going to see a brunt of the overtakes. Look at how wide this circuit is. It really is very impressive. We could see some 3-wide action potentially on the first lap. Then it tightens up on the drivers, so it really does emphasize how tricky this track can be in towards now arguably the most difficult part of the circuit, and he's done that quite nicely indeed. We'll see what his improvement is as he heads in towards the third sector, and he's up by just over 0.3 of a second.
Absolutely. So currently on a 26.8. If he can find anything in sector 3, which I'm sure he can, as he heads up towards the final couple of corners, braking hard for the last one. A large braking zone as he goes a little bit wide, missing the apex there, but should take a nice and wide line out of the final couple of corners, which will help his overall speed, and about 0.3 up, which is P12. He gains a little bit, but not a lot in sector 3. We flick on over to one of the Alpine boys. That is the timer gone. It is Luke Smith to set the pace first as he heads the final corner. P5 for him and 26.615, which should see him safely through. Kuba Trzekiak, I think, is next to cross the line. If we can flick over him, it is his teammate Medesha Mena, who only goes to a 26.891. Cameron Dowles, the youngster from Haas, into P6, now P7 as this one Pookie goes into the top 4. Everyone's starting to flick their laps up. Daniel Kelton into P11. Shanaka Clay up to P5 with a 26.412 for him. The Ferraris of Kuba Dresiak, he's into P16. He is out of qualifying as even more drivers starting to come out. That's Alexander Kras into P6 on his attempts, and all eyes now on Connor Muir as we have a look to see where he is now crossing the line. He's P18. He is out of qualifying. Joost Noordijk, can he see if he can get himself through into Q3 and knock out Leroy Brown? He crosses the line now, and he's into P13. Both SRT drivers and FVR drivers knocked out alongside Dylan Warren, who's sorting out a qualifying ban, and it is Thomas Ronner who sets the pace for Leroy Brown, Medesha Mena, Kuba Trzekiak, Connor Muir, and Dylan Warren out in Q1.
Well, Thomas Ronhard, Jack West and Will Lewis, that top 3 remains unchanged, and the likes of Otis Lawrence, Duncan Offland and Matthijs van Erven, they're going to have a big advantage in towards Q2, given that they've been able to save a set of the tyres as Leroy Brown retires in the pit lane. That brings us towards the end of Q1. Disappointing for FVR and SRT, the 2 backmarker teams you would say in this season so far. Dylan Warren, of course, serving his qualifying ban, but it's all Ronhard at the top of the order, 1 minute 26.306, almost half a tenth clear of Jack West, but even saying that, very close so far in qualifying. The top 4 not even separated by a tenth of a second.
Absolutely. So Thomas Ronhart setting the lights, the times of lights 400s on Jack West, with Will Lewis sitting P3. Pookie sits P4 with Clay, Craft, Lawrence Laverty, Smith, Dowds, Hoffland, Alder, Noordijk, Van Erven, Daniel Kelton, and Leroy Brown, and Medesha Mena, Kuba Trzekiak on debut, Connor Muir and Dylan Warren all out in qualifying 1 as we flick on over to qualifying 2 very, very quickly. I know the game deciding not to have any audio, so I will quickly fix that. I know why, because I've decided to mute my laptop, which is always a very, very nice feeling indeed. But hopefully we can all be heard. Well, the game will be heard in a couple of moments' time. But Q1 out the way. Thomas Ronhart showing his pace once again, and Haas might be a little bit more back on and up from the last few rounds, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Haas currently 7th in the championship. You know, that is not where we typically see them at the moment, but it is a good start to get both their drivers out of the first qualifying session with a lineup of Ronhard and Van Erven. You surely got to see them right at the sharp end of the order. Q2 starting to get underway, and we can see what we typically see, all the runners coming out onto the circuit on a scrub set of tyres, so it gives us a little bit of time to just talk about what happened in Q1 and sort of digest all that information before we see the proper Q2 laps.
Absolutely. So hopefully the game now can be heard for everyone. I see it on OBS. It is working. Idiot that I am. Decided to mute my laptop, which is always a nice feeling. But we're finally getting a few more laps down in Q2. Will Lewis just behind. I think that might be Matthew Order or Otis Lawrence. It is Otis Lawrence. Matthew Order is currently in the pits. So Otis Lawrence will be the first one out in qualifying 2 to set the pace in his McLaren Shadow F1 Esports team. obviously represented by Veloce Elite tonight, the McLaren team of Otis Lawrence, and surely this man will definitely get an F1 Esports team guaranteed in the not too distant future, 15 years old. It's just a matter of time. Before that 16th birthday hits, we'll have a ton of contracts flying his way down.
Absolutely, of course, he's one of the names you need to watch out for in the future. Himself and Cameron Dowds are the two youngsters on this grid, but they are certainly taking it to the more experienced racers this evening. Good to see them coming out in style. We do have to watch out for them in the future. We'll have to wait and see, though, how they do in the present, in the now, in the PSGL E-Series. Otis Lawrence, of course, on this, what we imagine to be a scrub set of the tyre, although he was able to get towards Q2 with only one set. Could be a fresh set of tyre. We'll have to wait and see. Heading towards turn number one, braking around about the 100 toward the beginning of the red and white curves. Locking up ever so slightly on the side front of the right as he slides his way in the first sector. Already a little bit scrappy for Otis Lawrence. He's going to hope this is a scrub set of tyres rather than the fresh set. But I do think, by the way he's driving, he's given no cares at the moment. He's not nursing these tyres whatsoever. So I do think they are scrub and they will be used in the future. That's on the curve. On the exit of the corner, I believe that was turn number 7, if I'm not mistaken. That's the shot in at the dark. That can be dangerous later on in the race if you accelerate through there. Your car gets airborne and then all of a sudden sent in to a spin. Once again, Josh locking up on the inside front left this time. He really is not treating these tyres with any care as he heads and towards the end of the second sector.
Absolutely so, as he glides his way into Sector 2, then heading into the final couple of corners of Sector 2, heading into the split of 1.815 is the delta as he heads up towards the final couple of corners in this lap. The DRS heads up towards the line under the Aramco barriers or banners, whatever you like to call them, heading into the final couple of corners, braking hard for the 100-meter board into a flick of the wrist for the left-hander, up to third gear, flick to fourth for the traction, heading into fifth, through to sixth, up to seventh, heading towards the line now, using that curve as much as you can at 26.799. Off the board for Otis Lawrence, really setting the job done. Will Lewis sits to P2 with a 27.003 as Thomas Ronner very, very close to Otis Lawrence there, 26.734, couple of hundredths in it there. Luke Smith into P3 with 26.967 for him, and I'm not sure who is next. I think that's Matthias Van Erven just crossed the line, 27.109 for him. Cameron Dowles just crossing the line alongside Shanaka Clay as well, who sits on the 27.036. Cameron Dowles on the 27.175. His teammate Yost Nordic on the 27.288. Jack Gravity is next for TF10. He rounds the final couple of corners as he heads up towards the line, fourth up to fifth, through into sixth. The DRS will hit him in the face now, crossing the line. P6 for him at 27.074, and that is everyone's first attempt. Jack West a little bit slower than last time, but I think he's backed off somewhere in that lap.
He actually spun in the final sector coming out the final corner. So Jack West, of course, in the top 3 in Q1. He's struggling early on in this second part of the session, but of course it is only his banker time. He's still got 10.5 minutes left to go in order to set a proper lap. Don't expect these to be the quickest times. We're going to expect everyone pretty much to be improving on their laps, but already very impressive from Thomas Ronhar. 1 minute 26.734. That's a very fast lap indeed for a scrub set of the tyres, but Otis Lawrence is keeping him humble at the moment. And then Luke Smith just a little ways off, and then a whole bunch of drivers in the 1 minute 27.0s and 0.1s as well. With 10 minutes left to go, we'll have to come out of the garage. I do believe, no, I thought I saw someone exiting the pits. We haven't seen Matthew Alder at the moment. I'd expect him to be the first man out on circuit.
Absolutely. So Matthew Alder, Duncan Hoffland, Istvan Pukki and Alexander Kraft yet to set some times in qualifying too. Jack West, to a degree, obviously a spin did not help his occurrence, and he will definitely have to go again. Probably looking at a high 26. Well, obviously with, I'm pretty sure a lot of these drivers, as you said, Dan, on a scruff set of tyres, so it's not really a great idea where we will go in these next couple of runs, because I'm sure a lot of these guys will be improving by quite some margin. Thomas Ronhard currently sitting on the top dog with a 26.734, followed by Otis Lawrence in P2 with a 26.799 for him, 65 thousandths separating the top two there. Luke Smith, P3, 2 tenths off that. Lewis, 2.5 tenths away from Ronhard, with Shanaka Clay, 3 tenths. Jack Glavity, 3 and a bit tenths, with Matthias first one over, 3 3/4 of a tenth to Thomas Ronhai. His teammate Cameron Dow's 4/10. Jonas Nordijk half a second. Daniel Kelson 6/30, and Jack West about 5 seconds off, obviously with that spin. Does not help his cause. We're back racing once again for the second runs in qualifying two. Let's get ready once again, Dan.
Yeah, but it is Otis Lawrence, the first man out on circuit. It's McLaren, Mercedes, McLaren that we are seeing. Duncan Hoffman, Alexander Kraft in between the two Veloce Elites runners, but we'll have to wait and see how Otis Lawrence gets on his lap. He was looking very scrappy on his first attempt, but that was a scrub set of the tyres. It was the ones he used in Q1, so it was quite a bit of wear already applied to them. Would have made it a little bit more difficult to get a clean lap in. However, now with the nice shiny new red wall tyres, I expect him to be pushing hell for leather, but he is going to have to take care of them ever so slightly as he opens up the DRS. We're going to see a lot of overtakes in this final sector. It's not the widest straight in the world. We can't really get the 3 wide action that we could possibly see in towards turn number 11, but here he comes now through final 2 corners now, taking a very wide line off the exit of turn number 17, trying to use all the speed that he possibly can, opening up the DRS, getting that drag reduction in towards turn number 1 as he hits the 100-meter mark, braking in towards his right-hander once again. Big lockup on the inside of front right. It's going to scrub off maybe a tenth of his time, but in towards the first sector, already looking a lot more planted than he did on his banker time. In towards now the next left-hander, feathering the throttle in 6th gear, applying the brakes ever so slightly through the mid part of that sector, in towards now the long-winded left-hander where you have to take a wide line on entry, swoop back into the inside on exit and run it out wide towards the right-hand side. Very nicely done from Otis Lawrence. Underneath the F122 gantry is where he can open up the DRS, barreling down in towards turn number 11. A very heavy braking zone through here. He's reaching speeds XX up to 2. Looked like a lockup, but now it's actually just me lagging. Apologies about that, everyone. So now he heads in towards the second sector, to the end of it at the moment, riding over the curb, sliding his way through here. It's looked a bit messy from Otis Lawrence's standards as he heads in towards sector 3, still up by almost 0.3 of a second, opening up the DRS now, and we'll see what he can do as he heads towards the line.
Absolutely so, heading up towards the final couple of corners with Otis Lawrence. Round in the final corner, then braking hard up towards the 100-meter board, flicking it to 3rd gear, up to 4 for the traction, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, up towards the line, crossing it now at 26.352. That's much more like it than we were seeing in Q1, and 26.314 beats Thomas Ronhar, but Alexander Kraft already getting the job done. He's been in form all season with his qualifying times, and proving that once again. Matthew Older crossing line now. He goes P3 with a 26.585. Will Lewis on a 26.319. Jack West on a 26.188. Have a look at that from Jack West. What a lap that was, and immediately replaced by Shanaka Clay with a 26.177. The times getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Isran Pookie about to cross the line on his personal best lap. He's invalidated on his first run. Jonas Nordijk sits P6 with a 26.325 as Cameron Dow still yet to set a lap as well. We'll run on board with Duncan Hoffman as well. He's currently in the middle sector. Thomas Ronhar up to P2 for him, 3,000 slower than Shanaka Clay at the moment. And Williams Esports once again having a worldie of a race, of a qualifying session as well this season, as we will look to Duncan Hoffman as well as he heads towards the final couple of sectors. We'll see what he's like, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he was invalid on his first attempt. He doesn't look necessarily quick on the second run, and you can just see by his sector time to 1 minute 3. Not pushing on this lap whatsoever, and the blinking red fuel light on the MFD is not going to be any good signs for him, so I think he did invalidate on that second attempt. He was on a 1 minute and 26.4, I believe, so that would have put him in at P9 with that run, but probably not safe in towards Q3. I'll have to come back into the pit lane. However, it's all Williams at the top of the order. No Caraton, no problem. Shanaka Clay leads away by 0.003 of a second from Thomas Ronhar in P2. Of course, Ronhar topping Q1. Clay decided to take that crown off him in Q2. Jack West once again, he said he was going to be very slow, but he's only 11 thousandths off of the back of P1 at the moment. Alexander Kraft, as we said, just very impressive so far this season, especially in qualifying. I remember he struggled around Imola, but ever since then he's been very quick, very close with the very top guys, Will Lewis and P5 on the exact same time as Luke Smith. It's going to be a very tight end towards this qualifying session. I do believe the top three are going to be completely safe, but then from there downwards, it's going to be a bloodbath, I'd say. We're going to see a lot of surprises, I'd say, in this session.
Absolutely. So hopefully everything stays clean into turn number one, but with a track tight like Miami, anything is possible. Reminder of the chat, everyone, keep it all respectful and keep it nice and tidy. We'll have a great time watching the race all together. 3 minutes and 25 seconds left to go in qualifying two. Jack West retires from the session. He thinks he's safe. He probably well done is on a 26.188. 8 thousandths up the road is Thomas Ronohan on a 26.180. Then 3 thousandths up the road is Shanaka Clay on a 26.177. The time right now is 19:38. 38 minutes to the 7 o'clock to the 8 o'clock even, and we should be in about 20 minutes time getting ready towards the race. We still have Q3 left to go just yet. 3 minutes left to go in the session, and it's probably this time once again, Dan, it's just the quiet before the storm.
Yeah, currently the bottom five is Jack Laverty, Cameron Dowles, Daniel Shelson, Isfan Pookie and Duncan Hoffman. Those are some big names that we would be losing in this qualifying session. I'm definitely looking towards Isfan Pookie. He's been also impressive at the moment, and I definitely do think these esports teams, they are going to be watching, and Isfan Pookie certainly has to be on their radar. He's got to get himself out of Q2, to continue his run of form, as everyone from 5th downwards so far peeling out onto the circuit. You can see Alexander Kraft as well in the pit lane coming out onto the track, so we are going to have all but the top three headed on towards the circuit with 2 minutes left to go.
Absolutely. So it will be Will Lewis who starts the last couple of runs in qualifying. His teammate Shanaka Clay retires on a 26.177, which is more than enough to get him through into Q3. The top three should all be safe, 2 tenths clear of everyone else, but you're probably looking at a very low 26.3 or a high 26.2 to see yourself into Q number 3. Everyone now on track at the moment who have yet to retire. Let's have a look then. It's probably, in the danger zone already. You can see Jack Laverty, Cameron Dowles, Daniel Kjeldsen, Isfan Pookie and Duncan Hoffman. Those two yet to set a lap in time, but it will be Cameron Dowles and Will Lewis to set their times first, as Will Lewis runs final corners, and it should be hopefully a Q3 qualification for Will Lewis. Had a little bit of a rough time as Zandvoort on his debut, but coming back to Miami, seems refreshed, seems fighting ready. He's currently top 5 in Q2. Can he go any quicker?
Here he is now in the first sector. A slight lock up in towards turn 1, but it doesn't affect him too much. He was able to meet his apex very nicely there. Fast through the next left-hander, feathering the throttle and getting on the brake ever so slightly for turn number 5, and then through 6 and 7, running it out wide on entry, then cutting back into the inside, wide on the exit. Very nicely done indeed. Down this straight now, not opening up the DRS until about halfway down the straight. Underneath the F122 gantry he goes, and reaching speeds of excess up to 212 miles per hour. Make that 14 at the braking zone for Will Lewis. Very nice and tidy as he kisses the apex on the inside. Don't use the curbs too much around here. They can be absolutely killers in towards the trickiest part of this sector. Turn 14 and 15 chicane. He's taking that very nicely. He can use all the curb on the inside of turn 15 there, but opening up the DRS, and he is improving ever so slightly. He's 700ths up on his previous best, and this should hopefully see him in towards Q3, as now the clock is about to strike 0. No new times that can be begun. We'll see what he can do as he heads in towards the final few corners. He's got one of the Alfa Romeos, that would be one of the R8G runners of either Joost Noordijk or Cameron Dowles just behind him. But Will Lewis locking up into the final braking zone there. We'll see how it affects his time to come across the line. He doesn't improve.
No, he does not, but should just be enough to see him through into Q3. He's going to have to hope so it is, as Cameron Dowles puts into P9 in massive danger at the moment. Otis Lawrence is next across the line. He's currently 3 tenths up on his personal best. This could be a 26.0. He crosses the line. It's a 26.004. Look at that from Otis Lawrence. Matthew Older comes into the pits. He is out of qualifying. Luke Smith cannot improve either. He's P7. Istvan Pukki puts it to P5 under 26.253, which knocks out Matthias van Erven at this moment in time. He's currently sitting P12 into the final couple of corners. Duncan Hofland into P6. Alexander Kraft is P7. He runs the final couple of corners as well. We're flicking over to Joost Norik, though, crossing the line. P10 under immense pressure at the moment. Alexander Kraft knows he is safe. We flick over to Matthias van Erven into Q3. He goes. I think that is a P7 time. Yes, it was. And we will have all the results for you in a couple of moments' time. We're flipping over to the result screens right about now. It's Otis Lawrence once again at 10th and 3/4 to Shanaka Clay in P2 and an incredible 26.004. He has a world record of this track as well. So it is no shock either. Thomas Ronha sits P3, sorry, Jack West in P4, Istvan Pukki sits P5 with Duncan Hofland in P6, Matthias van Erven is P7, Alexander Kraft in P8, Will Lewis sits P9, and Luke Smith is in the top 10, and Joost Noordijk, Daniel Kjeldsen, Cameron Dowles, Matthew Alder, and Jack Laverty all knocked out in Q2, Dan.
Yeah, we've lost 4 drivers, a part of the elites teams, the pro teams headed in towards this Q3 session. Big ups to VSR and Parnell, especially Parnell Racing, actually 4th and 5th in that Q2 session. Of course, Jack West is going to have a fresh set of tyres, as he only did 1 lap in Q2 and in Q1 as well. So it's looking very good for the community-based teams this evening. But once again, it seems like the top 2 teams are going to be Williams and Haas this evening. And then don't count out, of course, one of the Veloce Elite drivers, Otis Lawrence. He absolutely smashed it out of the water in Q2. We'll see how they cope in towards the final parts of qualifying. It's going to be 12 minutes to decide who's starting on pole position.
Absolutely. So we'll take a short break with a advert break, and we will be back with qualifying 3 2 minutes. Welcome back then to qualifying 3, the final rounds of qualifying for the Miami Grand Prix, and then we will get to the business end, which is the race. Joshua Davis on your lead commentary alongside Dan Field, and Dan, still pretty quiet out there in the pit lane, but we should get times coming as soon as possible.
Yeah, this is when everything does count for these drivers, of course. Could be the fight for pole position. So far, we've seen the likes of Thomas Ronhart, Otis Lawrence, and Shanaka Clay be some of the fastest far. Of course, all of them are part of the pro teams, but do not count out the community-based teams, the VSR and Parnell. Both of their drivers in towards the final parts of qualifying. Got to be very impressed with how they perform so far.
Absolutely. So Parnell currently sitting in the top 3. We'll have a look at the constructors very, very quickly for you. And if you are just joining us, it is Williams Esports Lead this way, 205. Plays to race clutches 136. We're just behind them, as we've just been speaking about. Parnell in P3 alongside Veloce in P4, 130. Plays to 114 with the RHG Academy in P5, 90 points. Plays to VSR's 88 in P6 with Haas hoping for some better runs of luck in P7 on 79. With Team CF10 in P8 on 68. SRT sit 9th on 57, and FER sits at the back on 47. And I think, Dan, we've got some action coming out in Q3. Someone just coming out. I think it might just be a Williams.
It's actually Luke Smith, first one out for race clutch. The lone RC driver in this session. Daniel Shelton eliminated in Q2. And for the team currently sitting in second in the standings, definitely going to put them under some scrutiny, especially given how close Parnell and Veloce are elites. Good race around Miami. Could fall down the order, so it's all on Luke Smith to get that team up the order in qualifying 3. see how they do in the race. He's got one of the Haas runners of Matthijs van Erven just behind him, and the two VSR drivers, Duncan Hoffland and Alexander Croft, follow him out. Otis Lawrence in behind, and the two Williams drivers, the two Parnell Racing drivers behind the Williams, and Thomas Ronhart is the final driver yet to come out onto the circuit. We're going to have about 2 runs in this session. We'll have non-stop action, I would say, from these guys, aside from their in laps and then strapping on fresh sets of the tyres. This Q3 session could be an absolute banger.
It absolutely will be indeed. Luke Smith is first of all, with Matthijs van Erven just behind him. And then the two VSR drivers are Duncan Hoffland and Alexander Croft, followed by Otis Lawrence, and then the Williams driver of either Will Lewis or Shanaka Clay. And behind them are the two Parnells, Jack West and Isfan Pookie. And then just behind that is Thomas Ronhart, who's just come out of the pits now. And Dan, we can start Luke Smith's lap here in Q3 as he heads up towards turn number 1. And the DRS will hit him right in the face as he heads up towards the finish line, braking hard at the 100 metre ball, staying tight towards the barrier, flick it back to the right hand side, up to 5th for the traction, flick it back to the left hand side, using those curves like a skateboard. Into 6th gear, let the car float out to the left hand side, then cut back to the right hand side, hanging up towards the flick of the wrist to the left. 7th gear action, keeping that speed up as much as possible into 6th, flicking it back to the left hand side, neat and tied wide handle, a little bit onto the curves. A little bit of track limits happening there, but he's kept his lap going so far. Very, very cheeky from Luke Smith there.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. I think he did go out of the track limits, and of course, if you do go out of the track, if you go across the white line, but then if you don't get an invalidation, you are expected to abandon that lap. So it might be a little bit naughty if Luke Smith completes this run. However, he might not notice that he did actually extend the circuit. I'll have a look back at that one on the replay there, but nevertheless, he's still going on his run as he heads in towards the final sector. 1:02.026. It's not looking the quickest in the world in this Q3 session for him so far, but he opens up the DRS. He barrels his way down towards the final corner. We'll see what he can do with the line.
We'll see if he keeps his lap as well. He might not know it as well as we've just said. Dan rounds the final couple of corners into the final corner. He's going to keep this lap going. Round in the final couple of corners, he will come to do a 1:26.972 as Matthijs van Erven crosses the line. Now, can he go any quicker? Yes, he can. A 26.233 right off the bat. Beautiful up there from Matthijs van Erven. Duncan Hoffland into P2 as Alexander Croft floats back away. Otis Lawrence right on the final corner now. A 25.9. We're into the 25s. Otis Lawrence a 25.925. What a lap from him. Shanaka Clay into P2 with a 26.190 for him. Right on boards with Jack West now. Can he ruffle some feathers? P2 he will go. What about Isfan Pookie? He rides the final couple of corners. We're also waiting on Thomas Ronhart as well. Rounding the final corner comes Isfan Pookie. Ahead up towards the line he will come. The man who's been in a lot of form recently on the PC platform. He crosses the line. P6 for him. Thomas Ronhart 1.1 in sector 2. Crosses the line. Pole for him. A 25.875. Just under half a tenth off, I think that is, to Otis Lawrence in P2. And Thomas Ronhart, once again, back on form.
Yeah, exactly half a tenth ahead, actually, of Otis Lawrence, sorry. Thomas Ronhart, he is at the top of the order with just over 5 minutes left to go. Otis Lawrence in P2. Jack West, once again, I mean, I brought this up 2 times already, but he said he's going to be at the back around this circuit. He said he was going to be last around here, and he's found himself on the second row of the grid alongside a Williams Esports representative, and one of the most seasoned and one of the most, I'm trying to get my words out here, he's one of the most experienced F1 Esports drivers on this grid, and he is now ahead of him. So Jack West, I mean, he's selling porcupines a little bit earlier, but fair play to him, he's done very well so far in this session. At the moment, Will Lewis and Alexander Croft, they weren't able to set their lap times, but now with 4.5 minutes left to go in Q3, all the drivers will be coming back in towards the pit lane, and then we'll see them very soon for their final runs in Q3.
Absolutely, a little bit of a little bit of lies there, absolutely, from Jack West there, Dan. From his pacing, he's bottom of the grid, but currently he's about 3 tenths off Thomas Ronhart, and that's a P3 for him. But definitely I'm sure he will say that there's a lot of time left in that lap. He's got 4 minutes to try and see if he can get himself on the front row. We'll definitely get behind him all the way through. But it's currently Thomas Ronha on pole position in P1, his last pole position, coming at the French Grand Prix at 20. I can't remember what it was actually. I think it was about 28.873. That might be either very, very slow or too quick. We'll have to wait and see what he will go from there. But Thomas Ronha currently sat at the top, half a tenth quicker than Otis Lawrence in P2 to Jack West in P3, Shanaka Clay P4, Matthias van Erven is 5th with Duncan Hofland in P6. It's Van Pookie sits P7, Luke Smith in P8, Will Lewis sits 9th, and Alexander Kraft in P10. Lewis and Kraft yet to set some lap times on the board. Once again, Dan, it's the calm before the storm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only a matter of time before one driver comes out onto the circuit, and then once we see them coming out, I'd imagine everyone else is going to barrel their way out of the pit lane, sort of opening up the floodgate with 3 minutes exactly to go. I'd imagine by 2.5, all of the drivers will be leaving the pit lane or out on the circuit. Once again, coming out first onto the track, it is going to be Will Lewis, seeing a sense of urgency, I believe, in his Williams, given that he hasn't got a lap time on the board so far in the final parts of qualifying. Maybe he's fueled up the car a little bit extra just in case he invalidates another attempt. He'll have enough to go once again. But Shanaka Clay, his teammate, just behind him on circuit, seen no such issues so far in qualifying. He's just a little bit slower than Thomas Ronha, so maybe he wants to come out earlier as well, get as much clear air as possible. Being stuck in traffic around a circuit like Miami, especially in that first sector where the dirty air could be detrimental to your runs, being in clear air, certainly going to be a helping hand for you. Then we got the two Mercedes drivers for this evening. That's Alexander Kraft and Duncan Hofland representing VSR. One of the Parnell runners would be Jack West. It's Van Pookie coming onto the circuit. Jack West already a little bit ahead on his lap. Luke Smith just behind Pookie here. Then we got Otis Lawrence and the two Haas cars, the final runners in Q3 with just under 2 minutes left to go. Here we go, Josh.
Absolutely so. 1 minute and 45 seconds left to go in qualifying until we get towards the race. Will Lewis prepping his final runs for the final runs here in qualifying. So Will Lewis just behind him, Shanaka Clay, his teammate, currently P4 and P9 for Williams. Unfamiliar territory to be that far back in qualifying, but I'm sure they can pull that back. Will Lewis, it's going to be a one-shot lap for him to see where he can go here in qualifying. He crosses the line now to start his final lap here in qualifying. Shanaka Clay will do the same alongside one of the Parnell boys of either Jack West or is Van Pookie. It is Jack West just behind him, alongside the VSR guys of Duncan Hofland just behind him, and then Alexander Kraft once again, and then is Van Pookie as well. We'll flick on over to Will Lewis then. A sector 1 time is coming up right about now as he rounds the long swooping left-hander, which cuts back into 5th gear, right in the curb like a skateboard, and he is on a 29.872, not quite purple in sector 1 then. The DRS zone will hit him right in the face as he heads up towards the tricky left and right-handers of the chicanes, braking hard under the 100-meter boards, under the Emirates banner, into 4th gear, then flick it to the left, and then flick it back towards the right-hand side, staying tight towards the barriers as much as you can. Yellow flags in sector 3, just people clocking their laps up, heading up towards the chicane then. A flick towards the right and a flick towards the left then, into the final couple of sectors, crossing the line now at 1.3, a very good sector 2, Dan. This should be a pretty decent lap from Will Lewis.
We'll see how it goes. He opens up the DRS, heading his way down in towards the final braking zone along this circuit, reaching the speed trap through here, about 215 miles per hour at the braking zone, down towards 3rd, then short shifting up into 4th, riding it as wide as possible on exit, cutting it back over to the left, then flats out towards the line, opening up the DRS. He comes across the line. It is P3 for Will Lewis for the time being. Shanaka Clay coming up next now. Can he go to the top of the order? Not quite ahead of Thomas Ronha, just quarter of a tenth off the back of the Haas man at the moment. Jack West head up towards the line, and he is up by some margin at the moment. We'll see what he can do. As Josh, you've left the session here. I'm not too sure what's gone on for you, but now here comes Jack West towards the line. He goes ahead of Will Lewis, 1 minute 25.977. The two Mercedes boys of Duncan Hofland and Alexander Kraft up next towards the line. It's going to be a 1 minute 26 1:035. P6 for Kraft for the time being. We'll see where Hofland can go, almost up by 0.5 of a second, and he nestles himself in at P5. Istvan Pukki is going to be up next towards the line, then Will Lewis, then Luke Smith, and then Otis Lawrence is up next. Istvan Pukki, only P7, disappointing for the Hungarian. Here comes Luke Smith towards the line, dethrones Istvan Pukki. He goes into P7. Otis Lawrence now up next towards the line. He can only manage P3. Thomas Ronhaar can't be contested at the minute. He comes across the line to improve his margin even more. 1:25.808 for him. Matthijs van Erven comes across the line there, but it is Thomas Ronhaar at the top of the order. He'll start from pole position alongside Shanaka Clay.
Absolutely so. Massive apologies that we couldn't show the last few runs in qualifying 3. Another Cody's moment as my game decided to crash. I'm really, really sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But Dan Field doing an absolutely brilliant radio commentary for us then. If I could actually get a sneaky invite as well, Dan, that'd be much appreciated if you can for us. But we'll get into the race as quickly as possible. But from the sounds of it, it's Thomas Ronhaar once again on the top step of the timing sheet, and once again another pole position for the man who's in incredible form quite recently.
Absolutely, it was one big Haas sandwich in qualifying, and the gap between P1 and P10 between Ronhaar and Van Erven, not even a quarter of a second, incredibly close throughout the entirety of the order, but it was Thomas Ronhaar going clear of everyone else in Q3, certainly making waves in PSGL E-Series, looking to bolster Haas up the order. But Josh, we'll see how we can cope in the race. It's going to be 29 laps around this Miami street circuit. We'll see how he handles it.
Absolutely. So if you are just joining us, where have you been? And where have I been, actually, is the main talking point. But it is Thomas Ronhaar on pole position to Shanaka Clay in P2. Otis Lawrence sits P3 with Jack West in P4. Duncan Hofland sits P5 with Will Lewis in P6. Luke Smith is 7th with Istvan Pukki in P8. Alexander Kraft is 9th with Matthijs van Erven in P10. Jos Norek sits 11th with Daniel Kjelsen in P12. Cameron Dowles is 13th with Matthew Order in 14th. Jack Laverty is 15th. Lou O'Brien is 16th. Radesh Mena is 17th with Kuba Drzekiak in P18. Conor Muir is 19th, and Dylan Warren is at the back of the field serving a qualifying ban as Dan helpfully sitting out there. 25.808 was the pole time, and we are 10 seconds away from the Miami Grand Prix. Place your bets. We are ready to go in the heat of Miami. We're all going to Miami, as I think Will Smith said there. Rounding the lights then, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. They go out and we are racing here in Miami. It's a good start from Thomas Ronhaar, immediately off the lights, trying to be compared to Shanaka Clay in P2. Otis Lawrence already having a monster move into P3 and already takes Shanaka Clay. Having a look on Thomas Ronhaar as well. They've all kept it clean. Heading into the first couple of runs then, it's Thomas Ronhaar leading away. Otis Lawrence is P2, but it's not done yet. With Shanaka Clay in P3, Luke Smith up the order in P6, dispatching of Will Lewis as well. We can see in your picture there, Luke Smith versus Will Lewis, bustling all the way through these last couple of runs, and there comes, I think, what is that? Istvan Pukki. Have a look at that from the Hungarian. What a move that was there. Up to P6. See you later. The double move is Istvan Pukki into P6, but he's not done yet there. Will Lewis still battling. Now they're still 3 wide. They're almost getting sandwiched between the two of them. What is happening here? What on earth? It's absolutely incredible. Side by side, 3 wide almost. Still down the inside goes Pukki. Desperately trying to make this move done. Forces out Luke Smith. They all go both wide. Will Lewis still hanging in there. Is it possible to see who's going to get this position? Will Lewis still down the inside and gets the job done. What an opening lap that was. And Thomas Ronhaar leads. Lawrence P2, West P3, Clay P4, Hofland 5th, Lewis 6th, Pukki 7th, Smith 8th, Kraft 9th, Van Erven 10th.
Great start from Otis Lawrence there to get the jump of Shanaka Clay off the line, who's dropped now all the way in towards P4. Otis Lawrence could be taking an opportunity to take the lead in towards turn number 17. Along here, he looks at the outside of Thomas Ronhaar, defends towards the inside, is now off the exit of the final corner. There you go, getting the power down as early as possible. Crucial for these guys. Thomas Ronhaar just about going to stay ahead for the time being, but Otis Lawrence gets on the battery, could possibly send a move around the outside, headed in towards turn number 1. Thomas Ronhaar once again defending down inside line. Otis Lawrence pushing all too hard at the moment. Certainly the Dutchman feeling the pressure of the young Welsh drivers. Now they head in towards the twisty sector 1 once again on lap number 2. Otis Lawrence continually applying the pressure to Thomas Ronhar here. Jack West just sitting in behind, hoping he can make an opportunity at some point work through here. Just a lap ago, we saw Isvan Luki send it up the inside of both Will Lewis and Luke Smith. We saw a move being made for Otis Lawrence through here, and I think Josh has made his intentions clear. Doesn't want to fight for the lead this early on. He's going to try and utilise the DRS on the back of Ronhar.
Absolutely, William Kingsfield in the chat puts it perfectly. Otis is hungry. Yes, he is. And not using any of his ERS on that lap, using a little bit, but not a lot. Obviously, Thomas Ronhar and Otis Lawrence, good friends, I think, outside of league racing, so they know each other very, very well from the FRA days on Xbox, of course. And I'm sure they'll have an absolutely incredible battle up their sleeves. Jack West, of course, on the Xbox is actually, it's a top 4 old Xbox series, all in the top 4. Thomas Ronhar, Otis Lawrence, Jack West, and Shanaka Clay, all in that top 4 so far. But for how much longer? Just in the battle of your picture is Duncan Hoffland trying to defend from Will Lewis, who's currently stuck in a Williams sandwich on his debut for VSR tonight. Really hoping to try and keep Will Lewis at bay. We'll flip back over. Will Lewis setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix, a 30.349 for him. They head into turn 1. Duncan Hoffland still hoping there for that P5 spot, and he will keep that as the DRS is now open. As Thomas Ronhart starts to try and open that gap up a little bit more.
Seems like Otis Lawrence backing off ever so slightly towards the second and third sector on that previous lap. We'll see if with the DRS he's able to close it back in. Of course, in one big DRS train for these guys, it's going to be very difficult for these men to actually make an overtake stick, but we'll have to wait and see as now they hit the DRS straight. We don't typically see it until they hit the F122 gantry about halfway down the straight through here. Otis Lawrence on the back of Thomas Ronhar, not applying the battery at all, so he's not going to try and go for this moving towards turn at number 11, but he gets very close to the rear of the Haas car and in towards the braking zone. They go. Thomas Ronhar feels no pressure for the time being. Everyone's going to try and settle into a little bit of a rhythm at this point in the race. Still a long way to go this evening, and all of these guys, of course, on the set of a hard compound of tyre. They're going to go long in this race as now the DRS once again going to be open around about just before the halfway point of this straight. Otis Lawrence, he looks a lot closer to Thomas Ronhar this time by. He pulls off to the left hand side. Thomas Ronhar with no defence in towards turn number 17. They go. Otis Lawrence in towards P1. We saw a battle further back behind between Matthijs van Erven and Luke Smith. Van Erven on the outside, Smith on the inside. They're both going to have a healthy dosage of DRS headed down in towards turn number 1. However, Luke Smith stays ahead of Van Erven. Ronhar looking once again, Josh, towards the outside of Otis Lawrence. Going to make a switch back off the exit through turn number 2 and 3. He's got much better grip than Otis Lawrence through here. However, track position for Otis Lawrence sort of controls Thomas Ronhar's approach into the first sector. They go, and Otis Lawrence, he remains in the lead of this race.
He absolutely does. Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhar having a great battle all the way through, and if that's another crash, I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. I think it is. So sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but this is absolutely infuriating, and we will get back to you once again. Dan, if you could take over very, very quickly once again.
Okay, here we go then. Thomas Ronhar, he's on the back of Otis Lawrence, headed down in towards turn number 11 to the outside of the braking zone with the DRS in hand. He's going to try and make this move stick. Otis Lawrence holding his way through here, and they're going to go side by side in towards turn number 12 and 13. Otis Lawrence fending them off as they hit the second sector chicane, surely with a healthy dosage of DRS. Ronhar is going to try and stick his nose in towards turn number 17, like we saw last lap from Lawrence. These two seemingly just going to swap the lead throughout the entirety of this race. However, Jack West is close behind at the moment as they have the DRS down in towards turn number 17. Otis Lawrence looks like, Josh, he is going to stay ahead of Thomas Ronhar on towards lap number 5 of this Grand Prix. At the moment, your classification is as follows: Otis Lawrence in P1, Ronhar in P2, Jack West is 3rd, Shanaka Clay in 4th, and then Duncan Hoffland in P5. As I'll try and see if I can get you an invite quickly. I think there's a little break in the action as they hit the first sector now. As I'll just quickly find you through here. But so far, it's been a tantalising watch this race. Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhar being the class of the field at the moment. And however, everyone else keeping them very humble. Jack West and Shanaka Clay, they got close on the last lap through there, but no moves were being made. And in fact, Jack West on the exit of turn number 9 is close to the rear of Thomas Ronhar. I can see you're back in the session. Not too much has happened since you were gone, so I think if the game was going to crash, Josh, that was a perfect time to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully everything is coming back, or we'll just set everything up once we are, once I am back in the session, which is now. Thank you everyone for keeping us throughout that time. I know it's very, very annoying, 2 crashes in one night. Don't know why it happens, but it happens, which is very, very annoying. Otis Lawrence still leads this one with Thomas Ronha in P2. Jack West sits P3 with Shanaka Clay in P4. Duncan Hoffland is P5 with Will Lewis in P6. Well, how much longer is the lead going to Otis Lawrence? As Thomas Ronha having a little bit of a look on the dummy of Otis Lawrence as he gets a little bit trying to, still trying, if I can actually get my words out, trying to get a false sense of security from Otis Lawrence as he heads up towards the back straight. Then the DRS will help with Thomas Ronha. Otis Lawrence just too far in front to get anything done there. Shanaka Clay once again pushing away to try and catch up to Jack West. Duncan Hoffland is plugging his work as well. Everywhere you look is battling quite a long way. Matthias van Erven, Alexander Kraus and Luke Smith is having a look a little bit tasty, and so is Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronha. Everywhere you look there.
Absolutely, it seems like Jack West for a little bit there was getting dropped by the rest of the pack as Isfan Pookie once again sending a move in towards turn number 9. Will Lewis almost into the tyre barrier off the exit of the corner there, but Isfan Pookie really does just shove his way through. Luke Smith now applying the pressure to Will Lewis, headed down towards the break zone at turn number 11. Here he goes to the outside line. Will Lewis on the battery, defending to the inside of Luke Smith. He's going to stay ahead for the time being. A switchback could be on the horizon for the Alpine, the race clutch representative, as he's going to be pushing Will Lewis throughout the second sector in towards now underneath the, I believe it's the motorway actually, as Will Lewis is going to be able to stay ahead, but with the DRS once again being enabled, who will we see go for an overtake? Thomas Ronha, he's certainly getting close to the rear of Otis Lawrence, but he's not on the battery. However, he is going to possibly try and make a move. He's actually off the power, so Thomas Ronha making his intentions clear. He doesn't want to go for the overtake at this point in the race. He's happy to just save tyres, save ERS, sitting in the DRS and slipstream of Otis Lawrence. However, Joost Noordijk sees no need to do that. He goes to move on Alexander Kraft, and Will Lewis once again around the outside of Isfan Pookie. These two have been scrapping throughout the entirety of this race. In towards now the first sector they go. Will Lewis been muscled out by Isfan Pookie there, and these guys, with all that battling, a bit of a chasm being created between 5th and 6th.
Absolutely so, Dan. Isfan Pookie showing his defensive masterclass so far, but if he's not careful, he's going to lose that DRS to Duncan Hoffland, but he's gained about 3/10 out of those sections of corners already, so I think maybe Isfan Pookie might be using a little bit lower the wings than the likes of Duncan Hoffland in this one. So they head up towards the line. You can see there, yeah, definitely about a 10th already Isfan Pookie's lost on the back straight, so lower wings on the Alpha Tauri as Thomas Ronha takes the lead of the Miami Grand Prix. We flip back over to the battle for the lead. Thomas Ronha and Otis Lawrence battling all the way through. Cameron Dowse gets past Daniel Kiertsen as well as they flip to the Sector 3 Delta. Otis Lawrence now loses the lead, but can he regain it back? We flick on over to the teapot then. DRS is in use. No, it's not actually it is, for Otis Lawrence. He heads up towards the final couple of corners. Does he want to make this move stick heading into the final corner, or is he going to wait? He's going to close up and close up and close up and close up and close up. He won out of that move. He's a little bit too far away this time, and this time Thomas Ronha takes the lead of the Miami Grand Prix.
Oh dear, contact. There's contact between Van Erven and Luke Smith. Sorry to barge in there ever so slightly, but Van Erven tried to send a move in towards turn number 17 on the back of Luke Smith, tagged the rear left of the Alpine car, almost sent him into a spin. Now there's been a big gap created between Will Lewis and Van Erven as Luke Smith, he begins falling down the order, trying to get to grips with this race at the moment. He's really been hard done by there, I'd say, from Van Erven. I think stewards will be a little bit busy after that incident, but now Luke Smith outside of the top 10, he's got to try and make the moves to get back up towards the Haasman.
Absolutely so. Matthias van Erven is losing a little bit of time to Will Lewis as well. Joost Noordijk's going to have to pick up the pieces as well in this battle, but most importantly, Van Erven's chance now to try and catch up to Will Lewis is impeccable. He's lost the DRS so far. 1.1 is the gap between himself and the Williams F1 Esports driver. We're flicking over. What has happened there? Oh my goodness me, what has just happened actually? As Otis Lawrence has lost a lot of positions. We've been looking over there, and what has happened in the matter of moments? Jack West now leads this Grand Prix. Thomas Ronner is second. Shanaka Clay is third. Duncan Hoffman is fourth. Otis Lawrence is fifth. Brown with a 3-second penalty in a matter of seconds. What on earth has happened there, Dan?
I don't know, I didn't see it. I mean, I feel like Chris Kamara with this action, but on lap number 8, everything's been shaken up. Jack West now leads this race. Thomas Ronhart manages to stay in P2. Otis Lawrence was the big loser in that battle. He's now down into P5. Shanaka Clay, he finds himself on the podium, and all of a sudden, Duncan Offland in P4 for the VSR team, doing an absolute service towards the community-based teams himself. And Jack West now leading this race. Of course, Williams dominating this series so far. And Josh, I'm seeing you're now playing F1 22. I think, have you crashed out here?
I've crashed out once again. I can only apologise, ladies and gentlemen, because this is an absolute joke. I don't know why it keeps crashing like this. I don't know if this is me or if this is the game, but I am really, really sorry. Dan, if you could take over for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so at the moment, they're about to hit the DRS straight once again in towards turn number 11, where we saw the action kicking off last time by. Jack West losing time towards Thomas Ronhart. Now the DRS is open. The overspeed is incredible for Ronhart there. He's back into the lead of this race, easy as you like. Jack West not really offering any defense in towards the braking zone, and Thomas Ronhart, he regains P1. Jack West sitting in P2. Shanaka Clay wasn't able to really find anything in that scrap. He remains in third. Hoffland in fourth, but he is feeling the pressure from Otis Lawrence. We'll see what they can do as Cameron Dowds and Jack Laverty fighting for P13. Otis Lawrence is hungry at the moment. He's on the battery, opening up the DRS, headed down towards turn number 17. He's closing to the rear of Hoffland. I think he's going to have to make sense if he wants to make this overtake stick. Hoffland defending to the inside line as Otis Lawrence going to soar around the outside of Duncan Hoffland. Oh, squeezed into the wall ever so slightly there, but he wasn't alongside whatsoever. And Duncan Hoffland is going to remain in P4. Otis Lawrence has to stay in 6th. Isman Buki getting close to this battle as well. We saw him drop off the back of P5 earlier on in this race, but with all this battling happening, it's really been able to bridge the gap between the rest of the field.
Absolutely. So hopefully we are all back in this battle now. Massive apologies once again. 3 crashes in a row. It's inexcusable, to be honest, as Thomas Ronhart now takes the lead of the Miami Grand Prix. Jack West is P2, Shanaka Clay is P3, Duncan Hoffland is P4, but Otis Lawrence, who somehow mysteriously, we didn't really see what happened there, Dan, but got caught out, I think maybe by Thomas Ronhart in their little battle. Now down into P5, was running in the top, pretty much the lead. Now sees himself in P5. He's got a lot of work to do. He wants to keep this up, and you can already see how late he's braking compared to Duncan Hoffland, gaining about a 10th there. As he heads up towards the left and towards the right, braking very, very hard at the exit. Once again, under the slipstream, they will go under the chicane, flicking to the final corner. Otis Lawrence might have another chance up his bag.
Yep, yeah. Well, he's got a bad exit though out of turn number 16, and Duncan Hoffland's going to be able to stretch away, not on the battery this time by for Otis Lawrence, so he's going to have to stick in P5 for the time being. Jack West having a hard look to the inside, Thomas Ronhart towards turn number 17, but surely these guys have got to be more worried about the pit stops potentially on the horizon. They're not going to be thinking about it just yet, but they are definitely coming in the next few laps. I'd say about 5 or 6 laps away from seeing these guys pit in for a set of the mediums, and that, Josh, is when the racing really does kick off. As Jack West got close to the rear, Thomas Ronhart from turn number 1, but he sacrificed his exit in towards turn 2 and 3. So Shanaka Clay and Duncan Hoffland and Otis Lawrence all getting very close to the rear of the Parnell Racing representative. And Parnell, once again, Josh, stand out for the community-based teams this evening, 2nd and 6th. I think they've got to be very pleased with how they are performing, and surely with a race like this and with Race Clutch being down in 11th and 12th, they're going to be 2nd at the end of this race.
They absolutely will, and Jack West is hungry, maybe for the race lead in a couple of moments' time. He's getting into a slipstream of Thomas Ronhart, but once again just a little bit too far back to make anything done there. Flicking towards the right and towards the left once again on Thomas Ronhart is Jack West, and 2 incredible drivers we are seeing so far, who have pushed themselves all the way through on the Xbox platforms all those years ago, and now see themselves in the top 2 on PC. Once again, here comes Jack West, getting a little bit of a better exit compared to Thomas Ronner, but with the ERS maybe being used on the Haas car. No, it's not. It's just better traction, better straight line speed for Thomas Ronner as they head up towards the final couple of corners. Jack West tries to spook him a little bit, and further back there goes this Van Pookie on Otis Lawrence. That's a brave move from the Barnell Racing driver. Side by side, this Van Pookie is not afraid to make these moves heading into these laps here. Here comes this Van Pookie once again. Not enough in the tank this time around. Otis Lawrence keeps his ground and stays in P6 at this moment in time, but Pookie is having an absolutely wonderful race, and so is Jack West at the moment.
Of course, at the moment, it's Van Pookie up 2 places in this Grand Prix, and he's certainly been one of the quickest guys that we've seen. He's been one of the most ambitious guys that we've seen. I think his efforts have really been able to put him up the order at the moment. We'll see if he is able to challenge Otis Lawrence once again, but they're about to hit the DRS straight for the 12th time in this Grand Prix. Jack West falling back ever so slightly from Thomas Ronner. However, Otis Lawrence and Van Pookie getting close to the rear of Duncan Hoffman. No such moves being made into this braking zone. Everyone in their rhythms at the moment as, oh dear, as Van Pookie goes very deep in towards turn number 11. That opens the door for Will Lewis potentially on the exit. Of course, being stuck on the outside line, not going to do him any good there. As Van Pookie is going to be able to stay in P6 for the time being. He's sacrificed a lot of time in doing so. He's going to have to possibly get on the battery off the exit of turn number 16 to catch back up to Otis Lawrence, who, Josh, at the moment is closing to the rear of Duncan Hoffman. We saw him try go for a move a few laps ago around the outside at turn number 17 in towards the braking zone here. He's just not close enough at the moment. I think it's going to be a lot of frustration for the Veloce Elite representatives, because he knows that he could be fighting for the race win at the moment, but before that issue, after this one here, he's going to be very annoyed at the moment.
Absolutely, he's just going to hope the strategy plays to his liking. Matthew Alder sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, 29.781 for the Veloce Elite man, currently stuck in P13, 2 seconds back on Daniel Kjelton at the moment. We flip back to Otis Lawrence, about 3/10 back on Duncan Hoffland at the moment. We'll have a look at the track map as well. Conor Muir having a bit of a moment as well, currently 9 seconds back on Kuba Tziekiet. Sorry for that pronunciation, is absolutely through the water. SRT not having a great race this evening, 18th and 20th at the moment. Only 4 points will be going to them at the moment as they head up towards the back straight with Otis Lawrence and Duncan Hoffland. A little bit too far back probably this time around for Otis to make something of it as he heads into the left-hander, and once again going to have to make himself another day as we head up towards the chicane. Once again, Lawrence using all he can in the tank to try and catch up, and surely now it's going to have to be surely Axel Benedetto, I'm sure, is his race engineer tonight. He's going to have to poke and push that he gets past Duncan Hoffland as quickly as possible.
Over and picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's the first one of the drivers fighting inside the top 10. Leroy Brown got his a few laps ago, and that's really going to put a dampener on Haas's day, especially with how close this grid is at the moment. It would likely drop Van Erven outside of the top 10 at the end of this race as Thomas Ronhaar begins pushing in his Haas. He's using battery and is now also second clear of Jack West, who's not been able to keep up with the Dutchman. Could leave vulnerable to Shanaka. Clay is now on lap number 14. We're nearing the halfway point of this race. I don't expect we'll be too far from any pit stops from these guys. I'd imagine someone outside the top 10, maybe one of the RAG boys or the TF10 drivers, or maybe even a FER or SLT driver could possibly try and undercut. I'm not too sure how it is around here, but with the grid beginning to stretch out, everyone utilising their battery does normally signify, Josh, that they do plan to pit on that lap, given that you just recharge it or in the pit lane, so you might as well use it whilst you have it. But Thomas Ronhaar still leading the way from Jack West in P2, Matthew Clay in third, pit stops on the horizon.
Absolutely, so it's a good point there, Dan. Thomas Ronhaar using quite a lot of his ERS, down to 35% already. So as someone's put in the chat, it is party mode engaged for Thomas Ronhaar. Set a very quick lap on this lap, on your in lap, and then come back in to try and see if you've made anything. Jack West has done a very good job to keep in the DRS, but it's a matter of time to see if Thomas Ronhaar wants to pit this time around, or if he is going to wait. Probably looking around maybe 19th and 20th. Thomas Ronhaar will come out. He's going to ride the final corner now. Does he want to come in this lap? He is not. He's going to stay in the pits, but however, Jack West decides to come in.
Yep, there's a very long pit entry line there. You have to stay completely towards the left-hand side of it, or sorry, to the right-hand side of it, otherwise you're going to get yourself a penalty. PSGL very tough on those track limits there, but luckily I don't believe that Jack West was invalidating them at all. So he comes onto a set of the medium compound of tyres, so lose time on this first lap with the very difficult warm-up around on this game. However, once those tyres come up to temperature and all of the other runners in front of him pit for a fresh set of the mediums, they're going to have to deal with the warm-up. Jack West will be in prime position to possibly make some overtakes. With that, of course, Jack West pitting, Thomas Ronhaar and Shanaka Clays begin to form a big chasm between the pair of them. Shanaka Clay, without any DRS down this straight, he is closing to the rear of Thomas Ronhaar. He's getting just a little bit of slipstream off the back of the Haas car, but he is not really going to be feeling too much of that benefit. I'd imagine at the end of this lap, then we're going to see most runners come into the box. And one thing that is key to mention is that I think Jack West, he's done a service to his Fampuki here by pitting a lap earlier. He's not going to have to pit behind his teammate. He can pit with all the rest of the runners around him. And he's not really going to have to suffer the double stack, which is completely impossible along this game. Is now in towards the final corner. Thomas Ronhaar's got to keep towards the right hand side if he wants to pit. We'll see what his intentions are. He's going to stay out once again, Josh.
Absolutely so, but Duncan Hoffman this time comes in, which elevates Otis Lawrence to the podium positions. Then Duncan Hoffman pits lap later than Jack West to cover off that undercut. We'll see where Jack West is. He's currently coming out of the final corner, so we will easily dispatch of Duncan Hoffman this time around as he heads out the back straight and should be very, very clear of Duncan Hoffman at the moment. We'll flip back over to the Mercedes driver. He's currently coming out of the box right about now, and Jack West has a fairly comfortable lead compared to him there. So Jack West, oh, I say that, was a little bit close there, about a second gap between the two of them, but Jack West definitely, well, comfortable than he has been in far few moments there.
Of course, it looked like Duncan Hoffman would be a lot further back behind than he was, but of course that pit exit completely cuts out the first corner, so you do. Jack West will be able to pull away from Duncan Hoffman for a good few corners until those tyres on the Mercedes come up to temperature, and then of course they'll be around about equal in pace, but 1.4 seconds is the advantage for him for the time being. We'll see what these guys can do as now they're on lap number 16 of 29. We're past the halfway point in this Grand Prix. Realistically, the mediums, they can go to the end from here, so why not come into the box at the end of this lap, utilise these mediums as much as possible in this race. Thomas Ronhaar out of the final braking zone along this track. He's not coming into the pit lane this time by Shanaka Clay will be doing so. Otis Lawrence staying out. Is Fampuki coming to the pit? Will Lewis, of course, he can't double stack behind his teammate. And oh dear, Shanaka Clay getting a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He was too late on the brakes there. Really going to put a damper on his race, and Williams all of a sudden not looking in the best condition.
Yeah, that was huge for Williams there. Just a little bit too fast for Shanaka Clay, and that has cost him quite a lot. We'll see where Jack West is coming out now. Yellow flags just behind, a little bit of contacts, I think, just in the background. But Jack West gets past Shanaka Clay, and I think that's going to be about 9 tenths of a second, about 8 tenths. Yeah, I was pretty much about right there. 9 tenths of a second between Shanaka Clay and Jack West as they head out of Sector 1 into Sector 2. So Jack West is in prime position at the moment to maybe take the lead, take the net lead of this Miami Grand Prix. We'll see where he is towards the leader very, very quickly. So have a look. There is about 17.7 seconds back on Thomas Ronhaar at the moment. So it's going to be interesting where he's going to come out. But the question is, does he have the pace to try and catch up to the likes of Thomas Ronhaar and Otis Lawrence when they do pit? We'll flick over to the leaders now. Thomas Ronhaar currently leading the way, 1.5 seconds to Otis Lawrence in P2. Williams is Will Smith in Will Lewis even in P3 with Joost Noordijk in P4. Luke Smith is P5. Thomas Ronhaar coming out the final corner now. Does he pit this lap? Yes, he does.
Finally, Thomas Ronhaar coming into the box will be followed in by Otis Lawrence and Will Lewis, and I'll expect Jack West to be around about the same as Thomas Ronhaar, but with his up to temperature medium tyres will have the advantage initially over Ronhaar, but with 3 lap fresher tyres strapped onto that Haas, he's going to be in a much better stead coming in towards the end of the race as Matthew Alder has to stay out for an extra lap so as to not double stack against his teammate. Jack West going to come through turn number 1. He'll be ahead of Thomas Ronhard, but by how much? As here they go, Thomas Ronhard just about going to be able to squeeze ahead of Shanaka Clay, but with the warmed up medium tyres, Shanaka Clay will be able to take the net P2 away from Thomas Ronhard. However, those mediums, once they get up to temperature, he'll be right on the back of Clay.
Absolutely so, and Duncan Hoffland sniffs blood with Thomas Ronhard, who's very, very on cold tyres, and he wastes no time. Duncan Hoffland down the inside of Thomas Ronhard and gets the job done. This could be tasty then. Duncan Hoffland, Thomas Ronhard, and Isman Pookie, and maybe Otis Lawrence if he wants to join the fun. Here we go then, the DRS working for Thomas Ronhard, and Duncan Hoffland. Isman Pookie could be having a look at this. Does he want to have a look down that inside? No, he's not, and he's still going to wait his turn. Isman Pookie looking racy once again as they flick over to the chicane. Once again, Thomas Ronhard eagerly trying to warm up his medium compound tyres. It's going to be in a world of, world of goodness, once those tyres get warmed up. 2 laps fresher than Duncan Hoffland, about 2 laps fresher than everyone, apart from Jack West, about 3 laps fresher than him, as Matthew Older will be coming into the pits this lap. So Jack West will take the lead, and further back, I think that's Daniel Kelton and Alexander Kraft having a battle for the top 10. Then down the inside goes Daniel Kelton, round the outside goes Kraft. Does he want to hold that in? Round the outside, Kraft will go. Does Kelton leaving the room? Yes, he does, with the traction there. Once again, Kraft having a look to that battle. Side by side they go. Once again, here comes Alexander Kraft having a look to the inside, which now elevates him to P9. Down the inside he will go. This is incredible racing, and I think Daniel Kelton might just have this covered. He forces him out, and Kelton still remains in that P9.
Nice indeed, battling between the pair of them. Alexander Kraft to be annoyed that he wasn't able to get anything out of that one there. As Jack Wesley now takes the lead of this race. He's got Shanaka Clay in behind in P2, Duncan Hoffland in 3rd, and then Thomas Ronhard now with heated up medium tyres. They'll be all over the back of Duncan Hoffland, headed down in towards turn number 11. Look at the overspeed that he's got, opening up the DRS, and now you can see Duncan Hoffland's flat on the battery, looking towards the outside line, in towards the braking zone. He goes now. Thomas Ronhard looking for the final spot on the podium. Not really that much defence from Duncan Hoffland, and Thomas Ronhard able to take that one very cleanly indeed. Shanaka Clay will be next on his hit list, and maybe he can make this move in towards turn number 17 if he is brave enough. He's certainly got a lot more ERS in that battery, as now they'll be able to open up the DRS about halfway down this straight. Can Thomas Ronhard get close enough to make this move stick? Of course, in that DRS straight, it'll be very tricky to do so for the time being, as now in towards the braking zone they head. Not going to be close enough to make a move. Otis Lawrence getting close to the rear of Isvan Pookie. The fight for the top 6 seems to be where all the leaders are going to be kept. Will Lewis has slipped off the back of Otis Lawrence, and Matthijs van Urban sitting in behind with his time penalty. Thomas Ronhard, Josh, fastest lap of the race. Duncan Hoffland as Isvan Pookie for company. Pookie goes to the inside in turn number 1. Can he get the move around the outside of turn 2? Have the inside for 3. They're going to run side by side, potentially in towards the twisties. Here comes Otis Lawrence. They're going to run 3 wide in the first sector. Now Otis Lawrence, ever the opportunities. Side by side they go. How have they not ended up in a crash? Otis Lawrence, he's been able to side his way around the outside of Isvan Pookie and Duncan Hoffland. Caught napping, I'd say. And Otis Lawrence, he says, see ya, bye. He's up into P4, but they've sacrificed a lot of time there.
Lewis Hamilton influence from Otis Lawrence as he gets 2 in 1. Otis Lawrence up into P4, takes this from Pookie and Duncan Hoffland. They were caught napping, and now Jack West is under a lot of pressure from Shanaka Clay and Thomas Ronhard. Otis Lawrence now is impeccable, but he tries to keep up to the back of Thomas Ronhard if he wants a race win out of this in the latter stages. Thomas Ronhard having a look on Shanaka Clay as well as they head up now to the final corner. The DRS, the final DRS will hit them once again. Here comes Thomas Ronhard. Once again, they're going to go side by side, surely. Coming up towards this back straight. Here comes Shanaka Clay. We'll flick on over to him. He's in the match as he can. This could be 3 wide here. Jack West under a lot of pressure. We flick to the T-cam. They go 3 wide. Thomas Ronhard in the middle. Jack West round the outside. He will go, but Shanaka Clay down the outside gets the job done, surely. Down the inside he will go. Jack West is still there. They're plugging away all the way as Shanaka Clay keeps this lead going, but here comes Thomas Ronhard round the outside of both of them. Thomas Ronhard with late braking as they all go off the track. Thomas Ronhard, a beautiful move there. Through goes Thomas Ronhard, the Flying Dutchman, up into the lead of this Grand Prix. And Shanaka Clay and Jack West battle all the way through. Otis Lawrence has gained about 0.8 of a second on Shanaka Clay at this moment. But Thomas Ronhard takes the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix, the Miami Grand Prix, sorry. Thomas Ronhard up into the lead. Jack West P2, Clay P3, Otis Lawrence P4.
Wow, Wow, incredible stuff there from Thomas Ronhard. What a move that he's made to retake the lead in this Grand Prix. Otis Lawrence getting close to the Shinaki Clay now, headed down in towards turn number 11. Can he make a move up the inside? All of these guys pretty much flat on their batteries. Have been battling it out so hard at this point in the race. As Alexander Kraft and Shelton having their scrap. They're 3 wide further back behind. Wow, indeed, as now they're all fighting their way towards the end of the 3rd sector. Josh, incredible battling that we've seen so far in this race. So incredible. I spilled my water all over my desk at just a few laps ago as Otis Lawrence is getting close once again to the rear of Shinaki Clay. Can he finally make this move stick? It's the battle of the new blood against the old soul of Clay. Can they go in towards turn number 17? All side by the brakes there, a little bit of lag on my end, but Otis Lawrence going to stay in at P4, not quite close enough to the back of Clay.
Not quite yet. Otis Lawrence is using a lot of time to try and keep up with Shinaki Clay, trying to make this job move. All flat on battery, 5% on the McLaren, and about not a lot, about 10% on the Williams. Jack West running with about 19%. Thomas Ronald on 25. This is going to get tasty with about 7 laps to go in this Miami Grand Prix. Kuba Zekiak with a 3-second time penalty added to his name. Remember, Shinaki Clay has that 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so this is surely going to be all for nothing. Here comes this Van Pookie on Otis Lawrence as well. They're going to come up towards the back straight. Pookie versus Otis Lawrence, the 2 young bloods of Formula 1 esports racing. It's Van Pookie. Does he want to have a look in the tag? He's a bit close enough, probably not that close enough in this battle, and still remains in that P5 position. Otis Lawrence in P4, Shinaki Clay P3, Jack West in P2, and Thomas Ronald half a second quicker than Jack West so far, currently leading the way in P1.
Jack West beginning to slip up. I think his tyres not in the best working condition anymore. It's definitely Shinaki Clay and Otis Lawrence are going to look to take advantage, headed down in towards the last few laps of this race. Speaking of Otis Lawrence and Shinaki Clay, it looks like once again gonna have another scrap, but in the DRS train it's so difficult to make a move actually stick through here. Will Lewis might have other ideas, is now further back behind. He's gonna send it almost on Duncan Hoffman. If he gets a good exit here, could go for the move in towards turn number 1, but he sacrificed that exit with the dive in towards turn number 17. Perhaps a sit in P6 in P7 for the time being. A little bit of a gap beginning to be spread as now Shinaki Clay runs deep in towards turn number 1. Otis Lawrence could be looking to take advantage. Here they go in towards the 1st sector. Otis Lawrence with the cutback looks to the inside line. In towards sector 1 they go. It's going to go through the S's section, not side by side, because Otis Lawrence even makes the move before that one has come to them. So very nice indeed from the young Welshman. It's Van Pookie, looks at the inside of Shinaki Clay, and he's going to make this move stick off the exit of turn number 8 through turn number 9. They go, and there it is. It's Van Pookie. He's now up into P4. Shinaki Clay in the space of just about 3 or 4 corners. Now lost 2 places.
Yeah, Clay not having the best time there. Down into P5. It's Van Pookie is P4. And Otis Lawrence is in P3 now. And trying to catch up to Jack West, who quite considerably has a lot more fresher tyres to his disposal. So this should be a pretty good move for Otis Lawrence if he can try and get close enough. A lot of battling down there as Luke Smith and Joost Noordijk all battling away there. Look at the gap between the two of them there, almost side by side through the chicane. Look at that as Joost Noordijk tries to force Daniel Kielsen off. Down the inside they will go. There's battling everywhere. Look at this. Foursome battling 3 wide almost as Joost Noordijk tries to battle his way past Daniel Kielsen as Dylan Ward. Oh, big crash! Big crash as Joost Noordijk gets almost tapped from the rear on his tyre, and that is a whole wing loss for Joost Noordijk. Lucky not to end in a full-on collision, but Joost Noordijk lost a lot of positions and he is surely out, and he is rage quit there.
I think he should have really retired in the pit lane there, but I don't think it really makes too much of a difference. His AI is just going to trundle along at the slowest speed possible. That being said though, he could still finish P19 in this Grand Prix. Could have come out ahead of Conor Muir, but I think the rage just got the better of him. Meanwhile, up ahead once again, Alexander Kraft and Jack Laverty fighting for the final spot in the top 10. Shelton and Warren battling it out just in behind them. The 4 of them all going hammer and tong in the 1st sector. I think they're going to spread out ever so slightly. Big gap between Luke Smith and Jack Laverty has been formed now as Shelton almost spinning off the exit of turn number 8. How has he kept that out of the barriers there? Dylan Warren was able to sneak his way through and stop from starting P20 on this grid. Dylan Warren silently made his way up the order. Very impressed from the TF10 representative. It could be a potential double top 10 on the horizon for them.
Yeah, silent but deadly is Dylan Warren. This race currently sat in P12. Not too bad points for TF10 going their way. 10th and 12th for them today. Remember, all drivers will score points. First down to 20th. Not sure if Joost Noordijk will after his disappearance, but we'll have to get that checked with the stewards after the race. But we'll flip back over in a few moments to the battle for the lead as Alexander Kraft is getting nice and tight on Jack Laverty. Not quite close enough, but he's had a little bit of a tap from the rear. Has Alexander Kraft there from Jack Laverty. Well, Jack Laverty's got a bit of a tap from the behind of Alexander Kraft, and that is a little bit of a touchy there from the two of them. And no love lost between all of them as Will Lewis, closing up to Duncan Hoffland. I can't keep up with this, Dan. He's battling everywhere you look.
It's incredible to see, and we've still got 5 laps to go, 4.5 laps about this point left to go in this race. It's looking very tasty indeed. We've got yellow flags. That's going to be Luke Smith, I believe, having an incident there. Jack Laverty, he's taken a time penalty in this one, and now Luke Smith sent tumbling down the order. That's another incident that he's been involved in. I don't believe there was any contact this time. I think he's just lost it on his own, and oh dear, he's into the wall, and now he's lost his wing. And Luke Smith, he's I don't know what's gone wrong for the race clutch representative. He's going slow in that first sector. He's completely lost his front wing here, and now there's more yellow flag. Connor Muir's going slow. Matthew Order and Daniel Shelson having a scrap. Race clutch absolutely in the wars in this Grand Prix today. Luke Smith way down the order. He looks to be out of this race, and Dylan Warren has been able to get ahead of Shelson. Actually, I think that he was already ahead of him. Matthew Order, though, trying to find his opportunity to get by and into P12, as now Luke Smith has crashed out. He's crashed out in the third sector. Could there be a potential safety car coming out of that one there? I'm not too sure. At this point, it would have been deployed by now. So I think Luke Smith, he's out of this race, and that is race clutch's day over.
Absolutely. So hopefully no funny business happening there, but Luke Smith's day is done and dusted as Jack Laverty and Alexander Kraft battle away for P10 and P9 in this battle. Down the inside goes Alexander Kraft, and the job done might be just about done. I think he's got that in the bag there. Alexander Kraft up into P9, 10 seconds back on Matthias van Erven. He's just a lot of time out of that one, but we'll flick over to the leaders then. First down to 8th within the same DRS train of each other. Thomas Ronald currently leading this one, about 50% battery he has at his disposal. We'll flick over to Will Lewis, who's closing in on Duncan Hoffland for P6 at the moment. He wants to have a look down that inside. Not quite enough there for the Williams F1 Esports driver, of course, newly to their development program, I think it is. And what an opportunity Will Lewis has at his disposal later in a few years if challenges goes very well for him this season. Down the outside he will go out of the final corner. Does he want to have enough on Duncan Hoffland? He's going to defend a little bit, does the Mercedes drivers. They head up towards the back straight there, along to Lawrence as well, having a look on Jack West. Will flick over to then, and about 26 laps. It's taken a long time, but with the fresher tyres at his disposal, surely now as the laps start to tick away, I'm sure he's being told in his ear, it's crucial we pass Jack West to try and get close enough, and with about 3 laps to go, it's going to get tight. Dan, I think you are on mute there. I've just seen on the Discord. I think you might be just muted. Hopefully, if we can hear you.
Whoops.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's because I ran off there for a minute to get some toilet roll for my water that I spilled all of my desk. But as I was saying, in that 9th to 12th position, it's been a complete war zone. Jack Laverty and Alexander Kraft fighting for P9 at the minute, and they're going to go side by side potentially in towards the first sector. Daniel Shelson looking to get a nose in there, and he gets ahead of Dylan Warren potentially. So they're going to run side by side off the circuit. The pair of them go. How have they not ended that in a collision? As Matthew Order's going to try and sneak his way around the outside. The FBR drivers trying to get involved, as well as Cameron Dowd. All of these guys not having a very strong race, but all of a sudden it's kicking off towards the final few laps of this race. Surely something's going to happen through here, as now Matthew Order looking towards the outside line of Dylan Warren in towards turn number 11. There you go, Daniel Shelson filing his way through here. It seems like Dylan Warren slipping now down the order. Cameron Dowd's going to get ahead as the FBR drivers of Kuba and Modesto trying to find all of that chaos and drama. They've been able to keep it clean.
Absolutely is Otis Lawrence having a look on Jack West down the inside for P2. Jack West tried to hold on as much as he could, but he could not hold on any longer as Duncan Hoffland has lost it on the final corner as well. He's down into P8. It's all happening with 2 laps to go. Otis Lawrence could be on for a race win as well. Jack West loses the position. The tyres just not working to his favour later on. The strategy seems to be good, but with the tyres just a little bit more wear. But between the top 2, it's not looking great for him. But Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronha have about a lap and a half to try and battle this out. Does Otis Lawrence have enough in the tank to try and catch up to his compatriot Thomas Ronha? They round the final couple of corners with about a lap and a half to go. This is going to get tasty as Jack West is on his tail as well.
Jack West knows that he can still potentially take P2 in this race. He's got more battery than Otis Lawrence. I think Thomas Ronald's got plenty to defend with. He's got 55% in that Haas car and he's been able to be so strong in this race. We'll see though how they handle it as they're on towards the penultimate time into this final sector now. Thomas Ronald, he's been looking the quickest driver pretty much all day this evening. Set hold by about a tenth of a second earlier on, so I really do think he has deserved this win wholeheartedly. However, Otis Lawrence, if he has something to say about it, he's got to really say it now. Is now headed down in towards turn number 17 for the penultimate time in this race. Lawrence is getting quicker, but he has no battery to attack with. In towards the braking zone, they go so close to making contact to the rear wing of Thomas Ronhard, but it's just not quite enough. Otis Lawrence is going to have to sit in P2. I think, Josh, he's going to be looking more towards his mirrors on this final lap.
Absolutely so. The last lap of the Miami Grand Prix, and it's all come down to this. 5 kilometers of racing left to go. Thomas Ronha versus Otis Lawrence, and maybe versus Jack West as well. It's been a beautiful day for Parnell. P3 and P4 so far. It could be a little bit more. Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronha for the last 4 P1 in this race, however. As they head up the final couple of corners, Otis Lawrence is going to have to dump absolutely everything in these next 2 straights if he wants to win this Grand Prix. Thomas Ronha is using what he can. I think this might just be enough for the Haas man to keep this race win, and it's going to be his first race win in the PSGL E-Series. It's too much ERS for Otis Lawrence to come by, but Thomas Ronha might just have this in the bag as Schumacher Clay battles with this Van Pookie. Joost Noordijk retires in the pits. Not sure why. He could have got the points, but he won't anymore. We head out to the chicane. Thomas Ronha, just 1 more corner to go. He rounds the final couple of corners. The ERS he will use as much as he can to try to defend from Otis Lawrence. Will Lewis and Matthias van Erven, I think, have been in the wars a little bit as they round the final couple of corners. Aldo with a 3-second penalty. Thomas Ronha has been an absolutely night and day drive for him. His mentality between everyone else has been absolutely fantastic. He silences his biggest critics and answers his biggest rivals. He rounds the final corner. Thomas Ronha from Holland rounds the final corner. He wins the Miami Grand Prix with the fastest lap at 28.5. Otis Lawrence on his second race in the E-Series takes second. Jack West takes another P3 and another podium for him. A beautiful day for Parnell as they finish P4 with this Van Pookie. Clay keeps his P5 with Matthias van Erven and Will Lewis having a little bit of a misdemeanor out of the final couple of laps. Will Lewis is 7th, Duncan Hoffland is 8th, Alexander Kraft is P9, Dylan Warren from last place is 10th, for Jack Laverty 11th, Menestro Miller 12th, Dowds is 13th, Curlton 14th, Elder is 15th, Brown is 16th, Drzeziak is 17th, Conor Muir is 18th, and we lost Joost Noordijk and Luke Smith there. But your race winner for the first time is Thomas Ronha.
Thomas Ronhard been able to dethrone Williams this race in what was a very scrappy Miami Grand Prix, but he was able to rise above the rest. Fair play to Otis Lawrence and Jack West taking the podium as well. I hope we can hear from all 3 of them in the podium interviews. But Thomas Ronhard, very commanding victory this race from him. He would look to be the quickest man all day. Slight hiccup in the midpoint of the race didn't really affect him too much. He only lost 1 position. He was just able to use his speed, his talent, to get himself into P1. He takes victory in Miami. Dylan Warren gets driver of the day. He ended up in P10. So that's 10 places gained for the TF10 driver. Fair play to them. They finished 10th and 11th. But I got to think, standout team for me today at least, Josh. Parnell, P3 and P4, very strong showing from them.
Absolutely so. Parnell probably, a little bit of bias, probably been the best team on the grid so far. It's been an absolute joy watching these past 5 rounds as we make our way to the halfway round of the season, and looking pretty good and taking that top 2 there and getting a few more points on Williams as well, who had a fairly rough day from what they've had in races gone by. We'll get to the results for you as quickly as possible. And there we are then. Thomas Ronald takes the win here in the Miami Grand Prix in the PSGL E Series, followed by Otis Lawrence in P2. Jack West takes P3 with Istvan Pukki in P4. Schnacker Clay is P5, Matthias Van Erven in P6. Will Lewis is 7th with Duncan Hoffland in P8. Alexander Kraft is 9th with Dylan Warren in the top 10. Jack Laverty is 11th with Medeshra Miller in 12th. Cameron Dowles is 13th. Daniel Kjelton is 14th. Matthew Older in 15th. Leroy Brown is 16th. Cooper Drzekiak is 17th with Conor Muir in 18th. And we lost Joost Noordijk and Luke Smith out of that one. But Dan, that is surely probably one of the best races we've had for a long time.
Absolutely. Fantastic race at Miami. It was certainly scrappy throughout the entirety of it. And all of these guys, really, they did put in 110%. So really well done to Thomas Ronhart, Otis Lawrence, and Jack West for taking the podiums. Of course, amidst all the controversy, make sure everyone in the live chat, you keep it respectful. We still don't know what's really going on at the moment, but, just please, if you have any snide comments or insults, keep them to yourself. It doesn't cost anything to be nice. And once again, thank you to our moderators for keeping the chat clean throughout the entirety of this race.
Absolutely. So echo those words there from Dan. But we are joined by our P3 driver today, Jack West. Jack, it's another podium for you. You got there from Zandvoort as well. You said before the race, I heard a few people were chatting that you don't think you had the pace that you're going to finish last. Well, you're on the podium today.
Yeah, I mean, going into today, I wasn't very confident. Miami is a really hard track in qualifying, with the chicane being the main corner. And I mean, I made quite a lot of progress in practice today, which I was quite happy with. But yeah, I think the qualifying was not as quick as I thought it'd be. Like I said, it's very easy to make a mistake around Miami, and I think quite a lot of people did. And yeah, I was quite surprised the lap time got me in 4th. But I knew coming into this race, mainly Thomas and Matthias were using extremely low wing compared to what I was using. And I think everybody was using low wing, because I could tell throughout the race that I was gaining about 3-ish temps in sector 1, and they were pulling it on the straight. So I knew I was much quicker in the first sector, which helped me quite a lot. It helped me get into a bit of a groove, because I could, in sector 1 close up a bit, and the race pace was really good, to be fair. I was quite happy with it. But even though it's P3, it's still really good points for the team. I'm quite disappointed, because I think if I hadn't have pitted so early, I think I could have done much better, because Thomas and Otis and Istvan had all had 3-lap fresher tyres. So I was really, I think if I'd pitted even a lap later, the race could have been quite much different. So yeah, we'll see what the results will be, because I saw Otis crashed into Thomas at the beginning of the race. So yeah, I'm still really happy with this though, and good progress for the team. We've done such a good job to, work together throughout the season, and I don't think anybody was expecting us to be as high up as we are. So, I'm really proud of the team for, doing such a good job in this series, and hopefully we can keep going for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Talking about the team now, obviously Parnell now second in the championship. Obviously, a lot of people probably going out and thinking here that the pro expedition drivers would probably take a lot of the race wins here, but Parnell are pulling it back with a lot of the podiums. Just talk us through what the vibe is in the team, and how you're probably getting these great results.
I mean, in December we had 2 drivers. We it wasn't looking good, and Liam and Leo were the main people behind it, and they got Boulam and Istvan, who I think are really underrated, especially Istvan Pukki. Recently, he's been improving so much, and he's been showing it in leagues like WR and PSGL. So, it's great to see drivers improving, and me and Istvan have a really good relationship. We work really well together. So, I'm glad that the team vibe's going really well, and these good results are just helping the atmosphere in the team. So yeah, I'm really happy.
Absolutely. And obviously going into the next race at Canada, if you are chosen for the team, you're looking forward to that one?
We'll see. I'm not sure yet.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, any thoughts before we let Jack go?
No questions from me, Jack, but really well done in this race. Certainly Parnell being the standout team, I'd say, this evening, getting third and fourth, and I really do hope that the pair of you and the rest of the team keep up this for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you very much, Jack West there, your P3 victor today. Otis Lawrence also joins us in the chat, our P2 driver today. Otis, it's a first podium for you in the E-Series. Had a pretty close battle with Thomas all the way. Had a little bit of a scrap earlier on as well. We didn't quite seem to catch it on the stream. Just talk us through what happened there.
Yeah, very happy with the pace today. I don't particularly know what scrap you're on about, but yeah, still very happy with the pace. Had a bit of an unlucky situation with Thomas when I hit him in the rear, which lost me a few positions. But yeah, we had really good pace. And yeah, hopefully we can keep this momentum up.
Yeah, that's actually the one I was talking about there. But yeah, obviously a P2 for you. It elevates Veloce a couple more places for you. Obviously, you've had a little bit of ups and downs this season. It's their first podium for them tonight. Are you proud that you can take home some strong points for the team?
Yeah, I'm very happy to bring some points home. To get the most points we could possibly get, but we got good points anyway. Sad I didn't get the win, but still good points. So yeah, hopefully you can carry this on.
Absolutely, and obviously Canada next week as well. If you're chosen by Veloce, you looking forward to that one?
I don't know if I'll be racing, to be honest. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't really like the track, so I hope I'm not racing. But yeah, we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, but any questions for Otis before we go?
Once again, no questions from me, but Otis, really well done in this race. That's to be the hot shots, the youngsters taking it to the veterans in the E-Series. So really well done to get on the podium this evening. I hope to see you back here in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Otis Lawrence. I don't think we'll get a chat with Thomas, our race winner tonight. I don't think he's come up in the waiting room, but I think we will leave it there for you, Dan. But yeah, that was another really, really great race from everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredibly well worked throughout the entirety of it. I mean, there was a lot of incidents going on. I think the stewards are definitely going to be very busy this evening, but on the whole, very exciting race, and I hope we see more like it.
Absolutely, that's pretty much been the Miami Grand Prix for you. An absolutely fantastic race. It has been once again in the PSGL E-Series. Stay tuned next week. Obviously, we have the Canadian Grand Prix as well next week on Friday alongside all our other leagues. And then we have the F1 Series on Wednesday nights as well. Stay tuned for that one. It's surely going to be a cracker. Obviously, in our other leagues as well, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6 and onwards on Thursday as well, alongside PlayStation on Monday, I believe. Thank you all very much for watching. Once again, stay respectful, of course, in our chat. Thank you to our moderators for policing everything and kicking anyone who has some nasty comments to say, and obviously keep it respectful. Kindness, as Dan said, cost absolutely nothing. Thank you all very much for watching. We will see you next week for the Canadian Grand Prix. Take care, stay respectful, and good night.